Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the PCOS newsletter and podcast. Today I'm joined by Caroline. Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
So Caroline here works for the Ultra Human team, who has just recently acquired the biohealth tech company that does the OvuSense product. And the reason why I really want to talk to you, Caroline, is I think because we need to understand the tools available for us to find our ovulation, and specifically in PCOS, because it's harder. We need to work a bit harder to find it. And you have an incredible story about conceiving that we're going to go into it. But I really wanted to bring that to life. So thank you so much for joining me. Would you want to introduce yourself just very quickly?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm Caroline. I am the Operations and Customer Relations Manager for the Women's Health section at Ultra Human. So I've been in my role now for 9 years, previously with obviously with Via Health Tech. Yeah, I guess that's it really. I've got 2 children, 2 OvuSense babies.
I love
that. My fertility journey spanned a total of 10 years. So I've known 10 years in total. So I've known that I had PCOS since 2013.
How did you get diagnosed, and was it a long process? How did that go?
It certainly felt like it. So I got married in 2011 and I stopped taking the pill as soon as we'd got married, with the intention of having a baby within the next year after the wedding. Didn't work out like that. So we were trying for around 2 years, and it just wasn't happening. And I just got to the point where I thought something's not right here. I tried the ovulation tester kits, the calendar method, all the other monitors that you can buy. I'd basically tried all of it, and I was never getting a peak reading on any of those sticks or anything like that. So I thought, feels a bit off. So I went to my GP, who referred me to my local hospital, and no, I had some blood tests first. So I was referred to my GP, had some blood tests, which all come back normal, which I thought was a bit unusual. So the reason, for that reason, he referred me then on to the hospital. And in the meantime, we paid to see a private specialist, in the hopes of conceiving quicker, because we thought, rather than being on the waiting list, we thought, maybe if we pay, we can, get access to quicker treatment. And the result of that was I came out and cried in the car park because it was just really disappointing, because they just told me that I needed to lose weight. Now, I know lots of women that will be that listen to your podcast will have experienced the same, and it's the most frustrating experience, because you've got a condition that makes it really hard for you to lose weight, and you're being told that. So I'd been trying to lose weight anyway, so then for that just to be reiterated to me, it was like, you need to lose weight, you need to get your BMI under 35, come back, and then we'll refer you for IVF. So that was not a great experience. So
you were not diagnosed at that point. They just told you to lose weight. So they did not diagnose you PCOS.
They just told me to lose weight. Yeah.
So they didn't even go and do the extra test. They just assumed it was just down to weight.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'd in the meantime, obviously I was still on the waiting list for the NHS. So had an ultrasound scan, which then diagnosed me with PCOS. So that then made it a little bit easier to, go forward with the NHS. Had my first appointment. Again, I was told that I needed to lose weight if I wanted any ovulation induction drugs. So went away, tried to do that. In the meantime, I went to the baby show with my best friend, who was pregnant at the time. It was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. But, trying to be a good best friend, that's what I did. I went along, and OvuSense happened to be exhibiting at the baby show. And I thought, this is the only thing here that's applicable to me. So I went along and had a chat to them. And I entered a competition to win an OvuSense monitor. And so at the time, it was like a standalone monitor that you used to just place the sensor in, rather than the phone and app the app and sensor that it is now. And I won. So I know. I guess now thinking back, it was kind of like fate. Really, it was meant to happen. It was meant.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this is like destiny. Like there was a destined moment. Yeah. Okay.
So I started using it, and it told me, I couldn't believe it. It told me that, because obviously on the sticks and everything, I was never getting the peak reading. So I thought, oh, I'm not ovulating. It told me that I was ovulating just really late in my cycle. So for me, my cycles were, I think at the time they were 35 days. And I was ovulating on day 27. So my luteal phase was really short. So I was never, ever going to conceive without having access to some ovulation induction drugs, to move it forward a bit.
Sorry, just for the audience, can you explain a bit what OvuSense is, just so for everyone that has not actually familiar with the product? What does it do? How does it work? And
So OvuSense is a cycle tracking app, and it comes with a sensor, an OvuCore sensor. Actually, I might have on here to show you. I might have one here to show you. Let's have a look. This is the sensor. Yeah, it's not too big, just a little bit, maybe the same size as a tampon, maybe slightly wider.
And that goes in your vagina, right?
In your vagina, yeah, overnight. So you don't wear it whilst you're bleeding or spotting. So you create a new cycle, wait until your bleeding's finished, and then you insert the sensor every night, take it out in the morning, wash it, and then download the data to your phone. And then each day it will give you a data point, which is an average of the temp. It takes hundreds of temperature readings every 5 minutes overnight whilst you're asleep, and then it collects them all together and then gives you a single average data point that will then be plotted on your chart. So you keep wearing it every day, and it updates in real time. So it will give you, based on the data that's input into the app, it will give you a prediction that you're about to ovulate in the next 24 hours, so you know that it's the right time to try. So then you keep trying and keep wearing the sensor until you get confirmation of ovulation or your next period arrives. So OvuSense will also tell you if you don't ovulate in the cycle. So it doesn't just tell you if you do, it tells you if you don't. It confirms with 99% accuracy, so which is the gold standard. It was awarded the gold standard in clinical trials, which is the same as ultrasound. So
and I think, and because I've been doing like a deep dive into this whilst I was trying to get pregnant, and I think it's obviously a lot of people do oral temperature, which is, to be honest, it's a pain to do it, because like just the thought of having to put it in your mouth and it's not as accurate. And obviously you can do the ultra-human or Aura or other things on the market that does skin temperature, but it's obviously never going to be as accurate as vaginal temperature, which obviously for us, we require that level of temperature. And I think you were telling me before this, it's actually class 2 medical device, which obviously none of the other things on the market would be.
Right. Yeah, it's a class 2 medical device. It's not affected. The beauty of it is, like you say, it's vaginal temperature. And it is so accurate because it's so close to the core of the body. So it's not affected by external factors like whether you've got a blanket on, if you've got air conditioning in your room, or it's not affected by any of those. And it so it excludes room temperature as well. So when it's giving you that data point the next day, it's excluded all of those, outliers, that kind of thing. Yes, cool. So that's OvuSense in a nutshell, really.
But then you used it, so you kind of saw it at the baby show, and then how long did you use it for, and how quickly did you become pregnant?
So ultimately, we'd been trying to conceive for 3.5 years. So when I went back to the hospital the next time, I took OvuSense with me, and I showed my consultant, and I said, look, I am ovulating, because they were telling me that I wasn't, because I'd had a day 21 progesterone test, which I know a lot of women listening to this will have also had, but they were testing me at the wrong time. And that's also quite common in women with PCOS, because they insist on doing it on day 21. I hadn't even ovulated at the time that they'd tested me, because I wasn't ovulated until day 27. So of course it was going to say that I hadn't ovulated. So they were telling me that I wasn't, and I was saying I am, but it's here, and he could see it clearly. So he knew then what the next step was for me. So I think he'd given me some metformin, which also seems to be the standard. But but he did say to me again, you need to lose weight before we will give you ovulation induction drugs. So I did a very strict diet, and I actually lost 2 stone in 8 weeks, which is absolutely unhealthy, and I wouldn't advise anybody to do it. But I was so desperate at the time. It had been such a long time, spent trying to conceive, that I would have just done anything. And there is no feeling, and I still say this to people now, you cannot describe the feeling of trying to conceive unless you've been through infertility like that. There is no words for it. It's awful. It's heart-wrenching. Each cycle that goes by, it feels like a year. It feels like such a long time waiting for the next cycle to come. And luckily for me, my cycles were regular. So, 35 days, so it's still classed as regular, but some women are 100 days, and so for them just waiting for the next cycle, it's so difficult. But yeah, so I took it along with me. I lost weight, had Clomid, and I conceived on my 3rd cycle of that, with using Ovisense. So I found that I could see that by taking Clomid, so they'd given me 3 rounds, and I could see each month my ovulation day was moving forward. So by the time I got to the 3rd cycle, I'd gone from day 27 to day 15. So it was almost like right in the middle of the cycle. And that was the cycle I conceived on. And my daughter is 10 this month. So that's
my God.
So she's
10. Yeah.
She's 10, yeah. So it was a really long time ago now, but the feeling just never leaves you. So I've also got a son who is 2, and so I experienced secondary infertility. I had a couple of miscarriages after I had my daughter, and it was all down to that luteal phase issue. But trying to have access to progesterone, they just wouldn't prescribe it to me because I was classed as overweight again. So it was back to that whole issue of, we'll help you, but you need to lose weight. So obviously I was back on that journey again, had a couple of miscarriages, but then they agreed to prescribe it to me on the basis of that I'd had a couple of miscarriages. And I think that guidance has actually changed now. I don't think you need to have had a certain number of miscarriages before they will give you progesterone assistance. But obviously over time that wasn't around then, so I was still trying to lose weight loss jabs, all sorts, to try and get access to that medication again that I needed. So my son, I eventually got pregnant, and my son is now 2. So but that is that's the end of the infertility journey for me, because I remember when my son was born, I turned to my husband and I said, that's it now. Mission complete. That's it. I can't go through it anymore. It wasn't the pregnancies. It wasn't anything like that. It was the sheer mental load of trying to conceive with PCOS. It was just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. So, now for me, in terms of how it is for PCOS, I'm trying to manage my PCOS now for me. Not for the infertility side of it anymore. I just need to focus on being able to manage it for myself, and the other symptoms that it comes with, like, coming off the pill. I was on the pill since I was 13 because I had heavy periods, but that it was never investigated then. So obviously I would have had PCOS back then. But they just, we'll just put her on the pill. So that's why it took so long for me to discover that I had PCOS, because it was being suppressed by the pill. So like excess body hair, like my hair is super thin, thinning hair. So excess hair, thinning hair, the weight gain, the mood, all those kinds of things that come with PCOS. I'm trying to just manage those for myself now. No infertility alongside it.
Yeah, and I think exactly. I think when you're trying, you can't manage PCOS whilst you're trying to conceive in a way that you would do, because it takes so much long-term, dietary and behavior and exercise. Like like if you just want to, especially after you've tried for 3.5 years, I'm sure that your goal was like, I just want to have a baby,
That was exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the sad part about this is how late you discovered and got diagnosed with PCOS. And I think that's the story of a lot of women. They don't know they have it because they've been on the pill. And once they come off it, I think there is this expectation also to just like bounce back and just have a baby, which is no longer true, right? Like a lot of people are struggling.
Yeah.
And the fact that your infertility was also put down to weight only, and no one even thought of thinking, oh, actually, maybe she might have something else. It just shows how much weight stigma we have in this society. It's actually, for me, it's disgusting. It doesn't the word I would use.
I absolutely agree. And it's not even on the infertility side of it. It's everything, the weight, for example, with the GLP-1s, there was a parliamentary group recently that had some recommendations into, women with PCOS should have access to GLP-1s to manage their symptoms, etc. But for me, that's something I'd investigated, and they wouldn't prescribe it to me because I'm not type 2 diabetic. And this whole host of other symptoms. So if you want it, you have to have it, you have to pay for it privately, which is fine if you have the funds to do that, but not everybody does. And it's, it's shaming the people that can't afford to do that, but yet want to manage their own health. It's difficult. Yeah.
It is very difficult. So just very quickly on your story, because I think it's fascinating. So essentially the reason why you were struggling is because first and foremost, you couldn't pinpoint when you were ovulating because none of the other methods kind of worked for you to know. And then obviously OvaSense showed you when you're ovulating. But then I guess ovulating so late in your cycle also created problems for your second pregnancy because the luteal phase was too short in order to maintain the pregnancy, right?
Yeah. And it was again going back to that being able to access ovulation induction drugs that just made it difficult again, because I was then considered as obviously overweight. So in between having my daughter and my son trying to conceive, I'd obviously put back on the weight that I'd lost to get them the first time, due to just not being able to manage the PCOS properly. And, women with PCOS will know about, especially insulin resistant versions, it's hard. It gives you the sugar cravings and you just want to like binge sometimes, and it's like it's really, really hard to manage. That's what I found as a person, and it just I feel like it takes over my whole life sometimes, because you kind of feel like you can't live a normal life because you're constantly and just self-confidence, self-esteem, it just makes me feel a bit rubbish sometimes because I don't look maybe the way I would want to look. And I just kind of blame PCOS for everything, I guess. Infertility, weight, it gets it all. But there isn't enough talk about PCOS. And there absolutely needs to be more. So people realise that it isn't just cysts on your ovaries, that there's so much more that comes with it. And women certainly do need support to manage it.
Yeah, and I think the weight piece is, I think there's a lot that we can do this day in adolescence, right? And so for example, I attribute my PCOS specifically because when I grew up, I had access to immense amount of sweets that my grandmother, bless her, in her best intention, did not have the education or the knowledge to stop me from that. I would say that's not it's not scientifically proven that eating a lot of sweets in your teenage years might lead to PCOS, because that would be a very complicated way of researching. But that is my main hypothesis around it, is that in the years where I was developing my reproductive system and my ovaries were evolving, and they were already a bit more sensitive to insulin, I gave it so much insulin that I think it just went out of it. However, if I would have been, first and foremost, nutrition good whilst I was, an adolescent, but also knowing you have PCOS much earlier, I think allows you to potentially have more lifestyle changes early on, which might be a bit easier than later down the life, right? And potentially manage it a bit better. But the insulin resistance makes you more hungry, makes you put on weight much more quicker. So it cannot be put down to habits and willpower, because there's much more physiological things at play. And I hope that we're moving away from it. However, the GLP-1 thing, I'm worried that actually we're not, because it's going to be hard to, like, it's going to be even more shame around it, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think for me, I'm more conscious, particularly having a daughter, because I don't know anybody in my family that has PCOS, so I don't know if it was something that's passed on genetically, or so I am certainly more conscious of, making sure she has a healthy diet and all of that, just to but I think you're right in what you're saying about having more access to sweets. I think it was like less known then, maybe when we were children. Like for me, like it was the same kind of thing, like you would go to your grandma's and there would be a sweet tin and you could just go and just have whatever you want. It's okay, don't worry. Like, there was not that I would stop my daughter from eating sweets or anything like that. It's not, but I think, it is helpful if you can help them to manage their lifestyle as they are growing up. It's particularly with exercise and things like that, because if it is to be that she does have PCOS, those, managing her diet and exercise will be tools that she needs to manage her PCOS if she has it in the future. So I think you're right about learning sooner is good.
Yeah, exactly. And I think now to kind of put it a bit on a positive note, I do think that you having PCOS will offer her a better shot at life, if you know what I mean. And that's how I see it now, because I'm pregnant with a girl and I do have worries that, she will get it. And scientifically speaking, it's very likely that she will, or she has.
Yeah.
Just because the main hypothesis is that it actually starts in the uterus. But for me now, I feel like I'm equipped with the knowledge and the tools to have her manage it well before. And it's not a given that she will, right? Because lifestyle and exercise is like only a piece of the puzzle when it comes to the treatment, right? So, but I do think that now she will have access to more of these tools, like Ovosense, like, strips, like GLP-1s and treatments that can help her at different stages in life where, she might basically have to
need it. I mean, for me, so I after I had my daughter, so I used to work for my local police department. I worked there for 12 years, and after I had my daughter, I decided that I wanted to do something to help people like me with PCOS. So that is why I applied for the job with Ovosense. And that's something that's really important to me now, is still just raising awareness of PCOS and helping people that are in the same position as I am, just to make it a little bit easier for them in their lives, So I left my other job to come and work here, and just obviously I'm incredibly passionate about it. So
that's essentially destiny. Like, I can't believe that you went, like, obviously in a very vulnerable position to go and listen to all of this baby stuff whilst you were, struggling, and then finding the team at Ovosense and then joining them. I think I mean, I also have a very spiritual part of myself, and I do believe in that you're put on earth to do something. And if you listen to it, you will be pushed into that path that might help you to do that. So thank you very much for sharing your story. I just want to end on one last question. What's your advice and last words for someone that's currently trying to conceive with PCOS? What do you think they should do, and what's your wish for them?
So what I will always say is knowledge is power. That is just, for me, having the knowledge, in my own personal experience, having the knowledge of knowing that I was ovulating but not at the right time, that was key to me in me getting pregnant in the end, because I was then armed with that information. So my advice is get the knowledge as much as you can, find out as much about PCOS as you can, and take that along to your medical appointments, manage it yourself. Not everybody needs to see a doctor if you can, manage it yourself. It may be just that some lifestyle changes are needed, better sleep. And that is one thing that with the Ultrahuman Ring Air now, you can, as well as having the Ovosense technology in there, it tracks your sleep and things like that. So you can see that actually getting better sleep does actually have an effect on your fertility. So all of those things, it might just be small changes like that. So that's my piece of advice, is get the knowledge and go forward from there.
Yeah, and be an advocate for your own health. I think that's
absolutely
a huge one. Unfortunately, we cannot live our health in the hands of healthcare professionals. No. And I think that should have never been the case, because we do need to understand our body, and we're in a world where knowledge is there for us to do that. And obviously that's why I write the newsletter every single Sunday, because I believe that the more you understand of how your body works and you're in touch with it, the more you can advocate for yourself and find things that would work. And I am excited for this new generation. I'm excited for the new, because we've not experienced the best way of,
No, exactly. And I think having knowledge makes it easier for you to advocate for yourself, doesn't it? It makes, if you feel like you're confident in what you're talking about, then you're going to feel confident saying it to a healthcare professional or whoever it is that's, telling you can't do it, or whatever it is they're saying to you. So definitely get the knowledge.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
No problem. Take care. Nice to speak to you.